Have you ever felt like life turned into an invisible war? No bombs, no blood, no soldiers, but something even more dangerous. A silent pressure crushing you every single day. Wake up, rush, produce, deliver, smile, pretend everything's fine. And at the end of the day, you crawl into bed with your head exploding and your chest heavy like something was ripped out of you. Again. The truth? We're living like anxious machines pretending to be calm human beings. And with every notification, every comparison, every demand, we drift further and further away from something simple, almost forgotten. Serenity. That word, which today sounds like fantasy or some cheesy motivational quote, was once the core of wisdom in entire civilizations. While we drown in content about how to be more productive, they were asking how to suffer less, live lighter, and find peace, even in the chaos. They, the ancients, sages who lived thousands of years before our time, but seemed to understand the human soul better than any Instagram feed ever could. And here's the turning point. These philosophies aren't just pretty phrases to post under a sunset picture. They are maps, manuals for walking through hell without losing your center. Today, we're going to travel through 3 of these maps, not as tourists, but as people who are tired of surviving, and finally ready to live with awareness. We'll dive into the teachings of Buddhism, which helps you let go of attachment and the illusion of control. Into Stoicism, which shows you how to claim power over what really matters. And into Taoism, which invites you to stop fighting the current and start flowing with life. But before we begin, I need you to stop right now. Take a deep breath and allow yourself to be fully here. Because maybe, just maybe, this video is the nudge your soul's been waiting for. If you like philosophy, self-development, and questioning everything, you are in the right place. Subscribe to this channel, Taoism, Flowing with Life. Have you ever tried swimming against the current? The harder you push, the more exhausted you get. And sometimes, all you need to do is stop resisting and let the water carry you. That's the essence of Taoism, a philosophy you don't learn from thick books, but from rivers, trees, wind, and silence. Because the Tao, the way, can't be explained. It has to be felt. Lao Tzu, the sage who gave birth to this tradition, once wrote, "Nature never rushes, yet everything is accomplished." That's not passivity. That's wisdom. Taoism doesn't want you to give up on life. It wants you to stop fighting against it. We were raised to believe that everything requires effort, achievement, pressure, control. But what if the secret isn't to push, but to let go? There's a central concept here. Wu Wei, which translates to effortless action. It's when you act in harmony with the moment, in tune with the natural rhythm of things. Like a surfer who doesn't fight the ocean, he waits for the right wave and rides the flow. And more than that, Taoism understands that life is made of polarities, light and shadow, joy and sadness, beginning and end, yin and yang. Nothing is permanent, nothing is absolute, and everything you resist persists. The problem is, we've been taught to treat life like a battle, but Taoism invites you to treat it like a dance. Water, the highest symbol of this philosophy, has no shape, but adapts to any form. It isn't rigid, yet it wears down stone. It doesn't shout, yet it conquers with patience. And suddenly, you begin to realize, maybe peace was never about winning. Maybe it was always about flexibility. So next time something goes wrong, and you feel the urge to control, to force, to scream, breathe, and ask yourself, what if I just let this happen also without fighting so much? And maybe for the first time, you'll see it clearly. Life was never against you. It was just you, trying to dominate it when all it ever wanted was to show you the way. The Buddhist teaching, acceptance and impermanence. Imagine spending your entire life trying to control what is, by nature, uncontrollable. That's what most of us do, without realizing it. And that's exactly why we suffer so much. Buddhism, a philosophy born over 2,500 years ago, begins with one of the most uncomfortable statements you'll ever hear. Life is suffering. It's not motivational. It's not optimistic. It's raw, but it doesn't stop there. According to Buddha, suffering doesn't come from pain, because pain is inevitable. It's part of being human. What destroys us is attachment. This obsessive need for things to go our way, in our timing, according to our script. And when reality dares to be different, we collapse. You wanted that person to stay. They left. You wanted the plan to work. It failed. You wanted the joy to last. It turned into longing. So you cling to frustration, as if holding on could somehow keep the past alive. But Buddhism offers another lens: impermanence. Everything changes. Everything passes. Nothing, absolutely nothing, is permanent. Not pain, not pleasure, not people, not even you. That might sound harsh, but it's also freeing, because if everything changes, then suffering changes too. It doesn't have to be eternal. It only becomes eternal when we refuse to let go. Buddha, before becoming enlightened, was just a man who saw the world as it is, full of loss, illness, disappointment, death. And instead of running from it, he sat, literally. He sat beneath a tree until he understood how to face it all, without going mad. The answer didn't come from fighting. It came from acceptance. Not the acceptance of someone giving up, but the acceptance of someone who realizes that life is not a problem to solve. It's a current to understand. So next time something spins out of your control, before you react, stop. Observe. Breathe. And ask yourself, am I suffering because of what happened, or because I can't accept that it happened? That is the first step to the serenity the ancients knew how to find, in the quiet space between one loss and the next. Stoicism, control and perspective. You don't control traffic. You don't control what other people say. You don't control illness or death. And no matter how hard you try, you don't control the future either. But still, you insist. You insist on living as if everything has to go your way, as if the universe owes you a life without frustration, as if it's possible to build serenity on top of fragile expectations. Stoicism rips that illusion apart with one simple line from Epictetus, a former slave who became one of the greatest philosophers in history. There are things within our control, and things that are not. That's it. Everything you need to begin climbing out of the pit of anxiety and self-punishment is in that dichotomy. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, one of the most powerful men of his time, lost children, lost friends, lost battles, and still, he wrote with an almost unbelievable calm. You have power over your mind, not outside events. While the world around him collapsed, he chose to remain centered, not because he was cold, but because he understood where his true responsibility lay. In his response. A Stoic doesn't run from pain, but they don't surrender to it either. They ask, is this under my control? If the answer is no, they let go. If it's yes, they act. That's it. Simple, but revolutionary. And within this mindset lies an even more provocative idea. Amor fati, love your fate. Love what happens, even if it hurts, even if it's the opposite of what you wanted. Not because you're a masochist, but because everything, absolutely everything, can be part of your growth if you allow it. So when something goes wrong, instead of asking, why me? You ask, how can this transform me? That change in question changes everything. So next time life frustrates you, before you explode, try this. Sit in silence and ask yourself quietly, is this under my control? The honest answer might just save you, because in the end, the control you've been looking for out there only exists in here. At this point, maybe you're feeling something that few people feel today. A silence within. Not the silence of giving up, but the silence of someone who finally understands they don't have to fight all the time. Because deep down, what these three paths are all trying to say is this: the peace you're searching for doesn't depend on anything out there. Buddhism teaches us that suffering doesn't come from loss, It comes from attachment. And that pain only becomes a prison when you refuse to accept that everything changes. Stoicism shows you that you don't need to control the world. You just need to take control of your mind, your responses, your posture, your decision not to sink with the tide. And Taoism, maybe the softest and the deepest, invites you to abandon the war, to dance with chaos, to trust that there's a hidden intelligence behind everything that happens, even when it doesn't make sense. 3 philosophies, 3 paths, 3 different ways of reminding you of the same truth. Serenity is not a place you arrive at. It's how you choose to walk, even when the ground falls out from beneath you. The question now isn't whether life will challenge you again. It will. The real question is, how will you respond? Will you keep trying to control the uncontrollable? Will you keep running from what is inevitable? Or will you finally learn to take a deep breath, let go, and trust? Because sometimes, what looks like the end is just life forcing you to pause. And in that space, between what you wanted and what life brought, that's where your true freedom lives. So now, with no rush at all, close your eyes for a moment. Listen to the silence between the words. Feel your body. Return to yourself. And take with you only what matters. You don't need to fight so much. You can let go. You can flow. And maybe, just maybe, you don't need anything more than that.